Bolton-Paul Defiant. Flight characteristics of Bolton-Paul Defiant aircraft. Engine: Rolls-Royce Merlin 3. Power: HP 1030. Wingspan: 11.99 meters. Airplane length: 10.77 meters. The height of the plane: 3.45 meters. Wing area: 23.23 square meters. Mass: kilogram. Empty aircraft: 2,757. Takeoff weight: 3,773. Maximum takeoff weight: 3,902. Maximum speed: near the ground, 402 km per hour. Above 5,000 meters, 489. Rate of climb on the ground, 9.65 meters per second. Practical ceiling: 9,250 meters. Flying range: 750 kilometers. The history of the creation of the aircraft. It was one of the most unusual fighters of the World War II period, representing the embodiment of the so-called turret fighter concept, with all the armament concentrated in the power-driven gun turret. In conventional two-seat fighters, the gunner performed an auxiliary function, covering the plane from the rear hemisphere, and the fighter was the pilot, using weapons forward, but in a turret fighter, the gunner had to play first fiddle. The task of the pilot was to bring the machine to a position suitable for the use of turret weapons. In June 1935, the F-935 specification was prepared to create such a machine, a two-seat monoplane armed with four 7.7 mm machine guns in the turret and reaching a speed of at least 480 km per hour. Of the 6 firms that submitted proposals, Bolton-Paul stood out. If its competitors were classic aircraft builders, then Bolton-Paul specialized in the production of aircraft turrets with power drives, although it also built aircraft, for example, twin-engine biplanes Sidestrand and Overstrand. The finalists were Bolton-Paul's Project R.82 and Hawker's Hotspur. Work on both projects was well behind schedule, and the victory of R.82 was due in no small part to the fact that it was less behind schedule. When the firm received its first order for 87 Defiant in April 1937, the assembly of the prototype had not even been completed yet. Tests of the first of the 2 prototypes built of the Defiant began on August 11, 1937. The plane was initially tested without a turret, showing good controllability and good flight data. Later it received a turret AMKHD, equipped with 4 7.7 mm Browning machine guns, 600 rounds of ammunition per gun. The weight of the turret when empty was 268 kg. The turret was an autonomous unit with its own hydraulic system. Only electricity was consumed from common aircraft sources. The engine was a 12-cylinder Merlin I, 1030 horsepower. The first production machine was built at the Wolverhampton plant in July 1939. Defiants were built until February 1943. The total production, including prototypes, was 1064 machines. Combat use of Bolton-Paul Defiant aircraft. The first unit armed with Defenders was 264 Squadron, which achieved combat readiness by May 1940. Its combat debut on May 12 was successful. The turret fighters shot down a Junkers Ju-88, but the next day 5 of the 6 participating Defenders were shot down in a skirmish with Messerschmitts. Subsequently, the only successful episode for these planes was the cover for the Dunkirk evacuation. Taking advantage of the similarity of their humpback silhouettes, the Defenders operated in mixed combat formations with Hurricanes, which allowed them to trap enemy fighters as they attempted to close in on their tails. In the following months the Defenders were relegated to the role of night fighters. By the spring of 1941 there were 7 squadrons operating this type of plane. By the end of 1941, the squadrons that fought the Defenders had the highest percentage of victories relative to the number of intercept sorties compared with other types of night fighters. Although in 1942 these machines were still used in combat units, they were gradually superseded by twin-engine machines better suited to install radars. The Defiant could not have a radar display and control panel in the cockpit, and the pilot had to operate the radar while distracted from his duties. In 1942 5 air rescue squadrons were equipped with the Osir MKL Defiant. The most notable episode of their use was participation in the support of the raid on Dieppe on August 19, 1942. Subsequently, up to the end of 1945 the Defenders were used as target towers to provide combat training for fighters and anti-aircraft artillery units. The Defiant proved to be an unfortunate aircraft. It could not have been otherwise. With the same engine as the Hurricane, it was 700 kilograms heavier. However, it was not successful during the day, but was widely used as a night fighter.